Interactivity. Not only do we need to rethink technology in schools, we need to rethink and re-examine what audience means in the media culture. With many new technologies, the lines are blurred between audience, consumer, user, and producer. To me, audience suggests passivity, watching a scene unfold in front of your eyes, not really having any active participation in the way that events go. Even in theatrical terms, audience participation is usually very limited and extends to clapping along or singing along or perhaps adding a few lines of dialogue or a sight gag to a play. Although a critical component, the audience very rarely shapes the overall outcome of a production in a meaningful way. There are a number of popular television shows that seem to rely on audience participation. Although I don't watch the show, I am familiar with the premise of the and format of American Idol and other related viewer voting programs. Voting for a singer on American Idol can be seen as a way for the audience to have some say in the direction the program will go. However, there's still an exceptionally limited, finite number of choices. The audience cannot, for example, vote for someone who isn't a singer, isn't part of the show, isn't officially registered in the competition. There aren't any real surprises, and the audience doesn't really change the outcome. At the end of the season, one of 12 singers will be voted as number one. What if the audience could interact with the format and elect a tap dancing elephant as the next idol? Or vote that the show relocate to an isolated island in the tropics? Or vote that the participants on the show stop singing altogether and focus instead on redecorating projects in Newfoundland and Labrador? There can never be surprises like that, as the entire outcome is scripted, and the audience participation truly is minimal. It doesn't change the flow or process of the show at all. The audience doesn't really get to choose the ending, doesn't really have any impact on the show. The author in the first chapter touches on the evolution of media and focuses on improvements made to the technology of media. She goes on and attempts to highlight the value of audience interactivity when technologies improve to allow audience a little more choice in their interactions with the media. All this means is that the audience can select the multimedia pieces and isn't immediately barraged by the entire piece. However, I believe this is a real misnomer. Interactivity is more than just being able to pick and choose which segment on a DVD to play. It's more than just navigating through the media, skipping specific advertisements, and focusing on the section the user chooses. This was a positive step in technology and permitted users more choice and thoughtful selection, but this shouldn't be confused with true interactivity that later technologies have permitted. Now, I'm thinking specifically to Web 2.0 technologies that permit the user to become the creator, producer, and consumer. In all the technologies the author has discussed so far, there's a strong distinction between consumer and producer. She hasn't indicated any of these distinctions, but I really hope that she does. I hope that she's going to rethink the technology in schools as to focus on the way students can produce their own content, rather than just passively consume it. Additional technologies such as closed captioning allow the audience to experience the media in a different way, but that's still not increasing the interactive nature of the media. The media is still being created, produced, marketed, and delivered in one format. It's up to the audience to decide how they'll individually or collectively consume the media. There are significant advantages to technologies like closed captioning, and they've opened up the media to a much wider audience and created a richer, more rewarding experience for many. However, this still doesn't mean that the media is interactive. The user, consumer audience is able to make some limited choices, but the material, the media, is already created and presented. Looking at HTML and web-based media isn't much different. The content is created, produced, and marketed by one group and consumed and used by another. With new technologies, there are changes to access, so the audience can access the media in different ways, and much like the addition of closed captioning, there are many benefits to all users. However, the overall media, content, and format has not changed. True, there's less focus on linear stories, and users have many more choices they can make about the specific pieces they consume. The overall story doesn't change much. In all these examples, I would consider the media to be static or stagnant. Even a DVD or other multimedia really is static, because the audience truly isn't able to shape the outcome or change the format of media. The audience can make some choices and thoughtful decisions about what to consume. how quickly to consume it, in which order, etc., but they're not really making any decisions that the producers haven't already laid out for them. In this way, surfing to different websites isn't much different. HTML technologies can be seen as a simple extension of other media formats. Rather than browsing chapters in a book or chapters on a DVD, the user is browsing through content on the internet. Truly, there are many more dynamic aspects to using the internet outside of simple consuming. My hope is that the author continues along these thoughts and begins to focus on the creation and production of media in schools. This is one way to rethink the way technology is being used in schools, although it is already present in some places.